The Superior Court of the State of California, County of Ventura, Department of the Ventura County Office of Education is now in session. Please be seated and come to order. Please turn off all cell phones and refrain from talking or being disruptive. Please take off your hat if you are wearing one. No food or gum is allowed in the courtroom. Thank you. Next case on the docket, People versus Gold.
Thank you. A few opening remarks. Ready to proceed? I want to greet all of you. This is a marvelous project, I'll say off the record, and I can tell by the glow in the back that many of you are parents of those who are participating. This is a project whose very existence evidences the need for the kind of understanding of constitutional and criminal law that, shall we say, is an issue today in our country. And these young people are getting a dose of reality in a formulated problem, but one which is difficult and challenging for anyone. I watched this program last year. I thought, surely young people in middle school aren't going to be able to do this, and I was really quite shocked. And I've been doing this for 40 years, so I am pleased that you're here. I know that many of you are extremely and justifiably proud, and when I stop these comments, we will be a courtroom, and we will behave as such. Again, I welcome you, and I now call the case People versus Gold. The parties appear to be present. To help myself and the attorney scorers, before we begin, let me state, I'd like the scorers to introduce themselves so that you understand who they are, and they're making a great donation to us. Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Marcello. I'm serve as General Counsel to the Ventura County Sheriff's Office.
Hi, I'm Michelle Miller, and I am the managing partner at the law offices of the Logan Gold that represents people who are custodial.
Good afternoon. My name is Jay Sherman. I'm a family law attorney here in Ventura County.
Hello, everybody. My name is Beatriz Flores. I'm a sole practitioner. I practice primarily in the area of family law, immigration, and civil rights.
Hi, I'm Laura Minkoff. I'm a retired attorney, and I do volunteer work in legal aid.
Hi, I'm Samantha Coolin. I am recovering from the flu, and I'm a trust and estate attorney with Staker Johnson in Ventura County.
I thank all of you for being here. This is a wonderful project, as well you know, and I look forward to the presentation today, as I'm sure you do. We're now going into the script, and we will be proceeding. To help myself and the attorney scorers, I'm going to ask that the prosecution team first each stand, state your name, and the role that you will play in these proceedings. Please.
Presenting the 2025 New Hampshire Prosecution Mock Trial Team. Your Honor, my name is Shivali Chandrasekhar, closing attorney for the people. May my co-counsel introduce themselves?
Please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Justin Ekholm, middle attorney for the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Rue Murphy, opening attorney for the people.
Thank you.
May I now introduce our witnesses?
Please.
First, you'll be hearing from Deputy Riley Kim. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Then, you'll be hearing from a reporter in Emerald Bend, Ali Sandal. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Kalani Moran.
Welcome.
Court clerk, please introduce yourself.
Please.
Hello, my name is Emily Goodward, and I'll be a courtroom clerk for today's case. I'll be using visual and verbal. 2 minutes. 1 minute. 30 seconds. And stop. When I say stop, all presentations must come to an end. With that being said, collectible proceedings.
Thank you. And now I think the defense would have the opportunity to present its parties. Please.
Your Honor, before we proceed, may our courtroom artist also introduce herself?
Please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Grace Mackel.
And can we see the display of your work? Is that in the program somewhere or in the audience somewhere? Where is your artwork? Is it presented already? Or are you doing it now? Okay, this is my good side. Any further introductions from the prosecution team?
None, Your Honor, but after the defense's introductions, the people have some housekeeping matters to discuss.
If you would.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all.
Thank you. The defense, please introduce yourself and your team.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Romero, and it is my honor to introduce the 2025 South Carolina defense team and attorney for Logan Gold.
Please.
May my co-counsel introduce themselves?
Yes.
Kaylee Roberson, co-counsel for Miss Gold. July Deo, co-counsel for Miss Gold.
May we now introduce our witnesses?
Please.
First, we will have the spouse of Logan Gold, Harper Dre.
Micah Dickey.
Next will be my client, Logan Gold.
Eden Carroll.
Third, you will meet the forensic expert, Dr. Cody Palmer.
Nadia Prieto.
And last, the podcaster, CJ Cosley.
Poppy Bean.
May we now direct the court attention to our courtroom deputy bailiff.
Please.
Camilla Jean.
May we now direct Your Honor's attention to our supervising clerk.
Crystal Sanchez. If there is a time discrepancy of 15 seconds or more, I will call it out.
And last, the defense has a courtroom artist.
Antonella Garcia.
That concludes the defense's introductions.
Thank you. There were some housekeeping issues that the prosecution wished to address.
Yes, Your Honor. First, we'd like to ask about your preference on approaching the witness.
In the custom and practice of courts, may I approach the witness be requested by counsel, and I will obviously grant it, but that's the ordinary and customary procedure.
We ask that the court take judicial notice of stipulations 1 through 24.
Very well, and you'll argue those at the appropriate time, I take it.
May the court take note that the exhibits have been shown to opposing counsel and have been pre-marked as exhibits A through F.
Agreed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
We ask that, excluding the defendant, all witnesses be constructively sequestered for the purpose of today's trial.
So they will remain here, but they will be deemed to not be here. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And lastly, because this is a time trial, we request that the people's exhibits be kept on the witness stand.
That would be convenient for the court as well. Have they been placed there as yet?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're hiding the stand. Where are the exhibits?
The exhibits are on the witness stand over there, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm not seeing it, so is it in front of me? That explains that. Anything further, please?
Nothing more from the people, Your Honor.
The defense,
Yes.
please.
The defense has already shown exhibits A and B to the prosecution Prior to the start of the trial, and pursuant to stipulation number 12, all exhibits have been authenticated.
Agreed? Silence indicates it is. Go forward, please.
Pursuant to Teacher Democracy Rule 3.7e, the witness statements in the case packet should be viewed as signed statements by the witness to law enforcement.
They are.
And finally, the defense would like the clerk to give visual and verbal warning signals for both parties.
Please. What will the signals be?
2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. And they've been apprised of this, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
That concludes the defense's preliminary matters.
Thank you. Anything further from the defense team at this moment?
No, Your Honor.
The people ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
You wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Your Honor, may it please the court, everything comes back around. On the morning of November 11th, the defendant, Miss Gold, chose to take action, and she decided to kidnap Miss Alexander. She had to step in to save the Gold Standard Inn and to send a message that rental properties were not welcome in Emerald Bend. The defendant had the perfect opportunity to kidnap Miss Alexander since she knew of Miss Alexander's morning runs. And Miss Alexander was trapped and scared for not knowing what the defendant was going to do to her. But the defendant didn't care. She only wanted what was best for herself, which is to watch her spouse win the election to ensure the safety of the precious family inn. The defendant's inn was struggling. During the kidnapping, the defendant forcefully took Miss Alexander, shoved her into the trunk of a car, only to dump her at Miss Alexander's very own rental property. The defendant then intoxicated Miss Alexander with a drug that made her fall asleep. When the defendant knew Miss Alexander was asleep, she needed an alibi, and that's when the defendant left. Conveniently, the defendant ran into C.J. Cosley at the front of their home when distributing flyers around Ambrosia Lake. This encounter was limited, enabling her to have the time to drive back to Miss Alexander's rental property, just to drug her again. With Miss Alexander out of the way, the defendant headed back into town to watch their spouse's last debate to seal the deal on protecting the family inn. The people will call 4 witnesses to the stand. Our first witness, Deputy Riley Kim, will show you the physical evidence that the defendant kidnapped Miss Alexander. The next witness is Allie Sandoval, an avid reporter in Emerald Bend. She will explain that the defendant took every opportunity just to make Miss Alexander look bad. And the next witness is the victim herself, Miss Taylor Alexander. She will explain the fear the defendant puts into Miss Alexander. She will explain how she heard the defendant say during the kidnapping, everything comes back around. Now, the last witness is Dr. Ray Forrest, an expert in forensic pathology. He will explain that the defendant purposely drugged Miss Alexander in order to prevent her from attending the important debate. But little did Miss Gold realize, indeed, everything comes back around. The defendant is being charged with kidnapping under California Penal Code 207, which states that the defendant forcefully took Miss Alexander to another part of Emerald Bend without consent. Your Honor, with the evidence that you'll be provided with today, it'll clearly prove who had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to commit this kidnapping. And Your Honor, that is none other than the defendant herself, Miss Logan Gold.
We, the people, will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant kidnapped Miss Alexander. At the end of today's trial, my co-counsel will ask you to come to the verdict of guilty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense wish to open now or to reserve its opening?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
May it please the court.
Counsel?
In November of 2023, an election is being held in the city of Emerald Bend for one open seat on the city council. The evidence will show that Taylor Alexander, the alleged victim, was running against Harper Dre. The big issue of this campaign was whether vacation rentals should continue to be allowed. Alexander was in favor of them, and Dre wanted to end them. The current board members were split on the issue, so the one open seat would serve as a swing vote. The evidence will show that Alexander was so desperate to win. She faked her own kidnapping to garner sympathy, votes, and falsely accused my client. The evidence will show that in an effort to frame my client, Alexander told police that her captor used a phrase commonly used by my client: everything comes back around. You will hear a prosecution expert testify that my client's tire tracks were found at the scene, but the defense will call an independent expert who will state there is no way to conclusively prove that the tracks are a match to Gold's vehicle. You will hear Deputy Kim testify that she did not find my client's DNA, fingerprints, or shoe prints at the scene. My client will take the stand and testify that she did not kidnap Alexander. During Alexander's alleged kidnapping, my client was passing out campaign flyers. The podcaster, CJ Cosley, will corroborate this. Deputy Kim will confirm a dozen flyers were found, further corroborating my client's testimony. Your Honor, at the conclusion of this trial, you will come to the only reasonable conclusion: that my client is not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Are the people ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you care to call your first witness?
The people would like to call Deputy Riley Kim to the stand.
Deputy Riley Kim, please stand. Please follow me. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Deputy Riley Kim, K-I-M.
Please also spell your first name.
Riley, R-I-E-L-Y.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
Deputy Riley Kim with the Emerald Bend Sheriff's Department, proudly serving since 2018.
What is your role in today's case?
On November 11th at 2:45 p.m., I was the responding deputy to 1335 Lakeside Drive when a call came from Taylor Alexander. She stated that she had been kidnapped.
Objection. Hearsay.
Do you wish to reply to that?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is not
comment, you wish to reply?
Yes, Your Honor. Can counsel explain how this affected the deputy?
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Well, if you insist.
Your Honor, the deputy will go on to explain to the court about how she started her investigation arriving at the rental property, which was the scene of the crime.
The objection is overruled. You may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you get a chance to finish your response?
I did.
Could you please tell us about the physical state of Miss Alexander when you arrived at the rental property?
Taylor Alexander was wearing muddy clothes and looked visibly distressed, which seemed likely, given the situation. There were inflamed red marks on both wrists.
Did you immediately notice any evidence around the property?
Yes, ma'am, I did. Alexander was holding a pillowcase, which had the insignia for the Gold Standard Inn, which is an inn owned by Miss Gold's family. Inside the shed, there were 2 pieces of blue-lined dock rope. I then consulted...
Objection. Narrative. May I be heard?
You may.
Opposed counsel Chandrasekhar asked, what did you notice upon immediately arriving at the crime scene? And Detective Kim answered the question, saying that they found a pillowcase in the hands of Miss Alexander. They went on to explain how they went inside the shed and then found ropes.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Well, I'm not clear on the objection. What is it that you're concerned about?
Narrative.
I'm sorry?
Narrative.
You.
The objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, what is it? What exactly don't you want me to consider by way of your objecting to this witness's testimony?
The ropes in the shed, as opposing counsel asked, what did they immediately observe upon arriving? But then Detective Kim continued on, saying that they went into the rental property and found blue-line docking ropes.
Procedurally, that's a good argument, but the evidence is going to come in all likelihood, explaining the witness's testimony, so I'll allow the answer to stand.
Yes,
I'll
Your Honor.
admonish the witness to limit your responses to the questions that are asked. Please continue.
Were you able to finish your response?
No, I wasn't. I then consulted Dr. Forrest about the drugs present in Miss Alexander's bloodstream, and he provided a toxicology report.
Was there any other evidence that Dr. Forrest analyzed for this case?
Yes, ma'am, there was. Dr. Forrest also analyzed the tire tracks found at the crime scene, and he found that they were likely to match Miss Gold's car.
In your investigations, did you speak to any witnesses in this case?
I conducted multiple interviews, starting with Harper Dre, the defendant's spouse. I then spoke to the defendant, Logan Gold.
If anything, what of significance to the case did you learn from interviewing Ms. Gold?
She explained that her car broke down, causing her to be late to the debate. She also mentioned that she didn't have her phone on her. When I asked about anyone that had spotted Gold that morning, she directed me towards C.J. Cosley.
If anything, what of significance to the case did you learn from interviewing Ms. Cosley?
C.J. Cosley confirmed talking to Gold on the morning of November 11th at 9:30 a.m., 4 hours after the kidnapping.
Did you interview any other witnesses?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I also spoke to Ali Sandal, who saw Gold come in late to the debate.
What were the next steps in your investigation?
To proceed with further investigation, I obtained a search warrant for Gold and Dure's shared home. At Gold's home, I collected a receipt from a local hardware store. I then sent fibers from the inside of Miss Gold's car to a lab, and they found oxalic acid residue.
Could you direct your attention to Exhibit E?
Yes.
Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Could you please describe it for the court?
This is a photograph of the receipt I collected as evidence from Logan Gold's home.
Is this a fair and accurate photograph of the receipt?
Yes, ma'am, I believe it is.
Your Honor, permission to enter Exhibit E into evidence?
Objection?
None, Your Honor.
Received.
May I proceed?
You may.
Could you please tell us more about the
The receipt contained a few supplies, like oil, grip tape, and marine wax. However, something that was very suspicious. One of the items on the receipt was 2 pieces of blue line dock rope.
Why did the strike you as suspicious?
The rope was the same type as the rope used to bind Alexander.
If any, what were the final steps in your investigation?
Based on all the evidence I collected, I then arrested Logan Gold for the kidnapping of Taylor Alexander on December 4th, 2023.
Thank you, Deputy. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness at this time.
Thank you. Do you wish to inquire?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
Your Honor, before I begin, may I place Exhibit B on the easel?
You may.
May I inquire?
You may.
Detective, when you first saw Alexander, she had a pillowcase with a logo from the Gold Standard Inn, correct?
Yes, sir. She was holding a pillowcase that had the insignia for the Gold Standard Inn.
And were you aware that 2 weeks before the last scheduled debate, there was a break-in at the Gold Standard Inn where many pillowcases were stolen?
Yes, sir. That is what Logan Gold told me.
And yet you never investigated this break-in, correct?
No, sir. My job was to investigate this kidnapping, not the break-in at the Gold Standard Inn.
Thank you, Detective, but I'm asking a yes or no.
No, I did not investigate the break-in at the Gold Standard Inn several weeks ago.
Now, let me direct your attention to the blue line docking ropes. You recognize them as blue line docking ropes used by boaters in Emerald's Bend, correct?
Yes, sir. They can be used for boating, as well as many other things.
And you are aware that there are a lot of boaters in Emerald's Bend, correct?
Yes, sir. We're a lakeside town, so most of us are boaters.
And these ropes can be easily purchased at the local Emerald's Bend hardware store, true?
Yes, sir. They can be purchased pretty much everywhere.
So let's get this straight. The receipt that you found at my client's home also showed the purchase of many other boating supplies, true?
I suppose they can be boating supplies, but they can also be used for other things.
Detective, I'm asking a yes or no.
They can be used for boating as well as other things.
I'm asking if there was other supplies on the receipt, Detective.
Yes, there was other supplies on the receipt.
Now, you never found my client's fingerprints anywhere at the crime scene, true?
No, sir, I did not.
Now, let's talk about the flyers. You found a dozen flyers in the vicinity of CJ's home, true?
Yes, sir, I did.
Now, Alexander claimed to have been dragged down a muddy hill, correct?
Yes, that is what she stated.
Let me direct your attention to Exhibit B regarding the tire tracks. The ground does not look muddy, correct?
I suppose it doesn't, but photographs can not predict what the ground looks like.
Is that a yes, my question?
I suppose so.
In fact, it looks dry, doesn't it?
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation as to this witness having knowledge about the science behind the tire tracks.
May I be heard?
You may.
Your Honor, as Detective Kim did take these pictures, she would have reasonable knowledge of what the ground looked like.
Comment?
Your Honor, on those grounds, I changed my objection to relevance. Your Honor, I don't see the relevance in the detective knowing whether the ground was muddy or dry.
May I be heard?
You may.
Alexander claimed to have been dragged down a muddy hill. If the road does not appear to be muddy, then that really questions Alexander's credibility.
Objection is overruled. You may proceed.
Now, the same day that Alexander contacted you, you took these photos, correct?
Yes, I did.
So let me bring you back to my previous question. The ground does not appear to be muddy, correct?
No, it doesn't, but ground can be different in different places.
In fact, it looks dry, true?
I suppose the ground in this area does look dry.
You never investigated whether Alexander fabricated the kidnapping, correct?
No, all I did was examine the evidence, and a fake kidnapping would never cross my mind.
But I'm asking you if you did or did not investigate whether Alexander fabricated the kidnapping.
No, your objection is well stated. If you'd rephrase your questions so they're not quite as hostile.
Did you investigate whether Alexander fabricated the kidnapping?
No, I only investigated the evidence, and a fake kidnapping never was an option to me. I always thought that it was someone else, in this case, Logan Gold, who committed this kidnapping.
So you did not conduct a thorough investigation?
I conducted a very thorough investigation on all the evidence that I found or that was provided to me.
Thank you, Detective, and thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect. You may step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Stop right there. Please follow me. You may be seated.
As a aside, in the interest of time, you need not have that procedure. This witness can simply return to their place. Thank you. Your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Sandoval to the stand.
Ali Sandoval, please stand. Please follow me. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Ali Sandoval, Sandoval.
Thank you.
You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Sandoval.
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
I'm a reporter and journalist for Emerald Bend. I had followed the intense political race between Harper Dre and Taylor Alexander.
And how are you related to today's case?
I attended the debate where all went down between Harper Dre and Taylor Alexander. I had journaled the election. I also interviewed the candidates, including Harper Dre's spouse and campaign manager, Logan Gold.
What were your thoughts on Mrs. Gold after you had interviewed her?
Well, she seems to take the campaign way more seriously than even the candidates. She also seems to love to talk about her business, the Gold Standard Inn. I also found it pretty odd that she always uses the phrase, everything comes back around.
Now, Ms. Sandoval, throughout your interviews, have you noticed anything specific about the attitude of Miss Gold towards Miss Alexander?
I've always seen Gold getting in fights with Miss Alexander about the rental properties in Emerald Bend, even saying things like Alexander would ruin the town.
How did Mrs. Alexander respond to these comments?
When Miss Alexander mentioned her morning runs to Gold, she told Gold in a sarcastic tone that Gold could benefit from a grounding routine like that because they sounded pretty unhinged.
May be heard, Your Honor.
You may.
This statement is not hearsay. It is not being used for the truth of the matter, which is that Gold could benefit from a grounding routine, but it is being used to show that this statement was said by Ali Sandoval and heard by Logan Gold, giving Logan Gold the knowledge about these runs.
Your response.
Yes, Your Honor, this is the truth, as Alexander said that they ran every morning and that Gold would benefit from this. So if they're offering it to show that Gold knew that Alexander ran in the morning, this is being offered for the truth, Your Honor.
May be heard, Your Honor.
You may.
The truth of the matter asserted is that Gold could benefit from a grounding routine like Miss Alexander's. As we are not using this statement to prove that Gold could, in fact, benefit from a grounding routine, this statement is not being used for the truth of the matter asserted.
Then why do I care?
Your Honor, this statement is being used to prove that Mrs. Gold had the knowledge of these running routines.
It will be received for that limited purpose. Thank you, and well presented, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you get a chance to finish your response?
I was.
Ms. Sandoval, have you done any research on this election?
Have I done my research? Of course I have. I've done my research on the financial struggles of the Gold Standard Inn.
What did you learn about the financial struggles of the Gold Standard Inn from this research?
This whole issue of rental properties in Emerald Bend is really hurting the Gold Standard Inn. That's why I think part of the reason why Miss Gold takes this election so personally and almost seems desperate for Miss Joy to win is in order to keep her inn alive.
Objection, speculation.
Would you be heard? Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor. This statement is not speculation, as Mrs. Sandoval has both the personal knowledge of the financial struggles of the Gold Standard Inn and how Miss Gold tends to act regarding this election, giving them the knowledge to make this statement.
May I be heard?
You may.
Ms. Sandoval testified to thinking that this is why Miss Gold took this campaign so seriously. Your Honor, this is speculation, as Miss Sandoval is not Miss Gold.
May be heard, Your Honor.
No, the objection is sustained.
Yes,
Move to strike.
Stricken.
Ms. Sandoval, you mentioned a debate earlier. What happened there?
Neither Logan nor Taylor Alexander were there. Logan did show up around 12:30, which is very unlike them, as she's very punctual to these type of things.
How did Mrs. Gold appear when she arrived?
Miss Gold seemed frazzled and out of breath, almost how someone looks after they run, which was very weird considering her normal punctuality and calm demeanor.
Did Mrs. Gold say anything to Mr. A when she arrived?
In a hurry to get in, when Mr. Dory asked what happened, she said, "It's all been taken care of," which seemed very unusual to me.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness.
Thank you. Cross-examine, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, before I begin, may I have a time check from...
Yeah. Yes, you may. You may proceed.
As a journalist, you closely cover the race for city council, true?
That is true, yes.
And you attended all major campaign events and debates, am I right?
I did attend all debates.
So, were opposing candidates Harper Dre and Taylor Alexander neck and neck?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Were opposing candidates Harper Dre and Taylor Alexander neck and neck, meaning that it was a very tight race?
I would say it was a tight race, yes.
Now, the current members in the city council were split on the issue of land vacation rentals, right?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
The current members on the city council were split on the issue of land vacation rentals?
They were split on the land issues, yes.
And the one open seat on the city council would serve as a swing vote, am I right?
I don't think I understand. I'm sorry.
She's expressed that. Could you rephrase your question, please?
Yes, Your Honor. So, because the city council members were split on the issue, the one open seat that Taylor Alexander and Harper Dre were running for would serve as a swing vote on the issue of vacation rentals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, you learned that the issue of vacation rentals were extremely important to Alexander, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Question calls for speculation on behalf of the witness.
Reply.
Your Honor, as Ms. Sandoval is a journalist, she would have personal knowledge if this debate or this election was crucial to Ms. Alexander or not.
May be heard, Your Honor.
No, your objection is sustained.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Motion to strike the question?
The answer will stand as is. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And although DeRay won the election on banning vacation rentals, she only won by a very narrow margin. Am I right?
That's correct. She did win on a very small margin.
You do not personally like my clients, correct?
I have never said I do not like Mrs. Gold, I'm sorry, but I have my own opinion through my interviews.
Is that a yes or no, Ms. Sandoval?
That is a no.
So, my client dated your sibling, correct?
They dated years ago.
And then they had a bad breakup, true?
They did have a bad breakup, but like I said, it was years ago.
And after this bad breakup, your sibling moved out of Emerald's Bend, correct?
She moved out on her own choice.
And has not been back, true?
That is true, but like I said, it was on her own choice.
You still do not blame my client for your sibling moving out of Emerald's Bend?
I do not blame Mrs. Gold for that.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval, and thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
May I proceed?
You may.
Ms. Sandoval, would you ever have a negative bias towards Logan Gold?
Absolutely not. I would never.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness.
May the
May
witness
this
step
be
down.
excused?
Yes, you may resume your seat, please. And again, in the interest of time, as the next witness is called, instead of making the circuit, why don't you meet in the middle of here, and that might save everybody a little time, okay? So when the witness gets up and stands, the witness will come to the center, you come to the center and meet the witness. Will that work? Witness understand? Okay, cool. Proceed. Your next witness.
Your Honor, the people would like to call Taylor Alexander to the stand.
Taylor Alexander, please stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Taylor Alexander, Taylor, Alexander, Alexander.
Thank you.
I thank the bailiff, and if we proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Alexander.
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
Taylor Alexander, politician for Emerald Bend. I ran against Harper Dre in the most recent election for City Council.
Can you elaborate on your political experience in Emerald Bend?
As you might know, not everyone agrees with every politician, but during this most recent race, there was one person in particular that made my life exceptionally difficult.
Who was this person?
That would be Logan Gold, my political opponent's spouse, as well as their campaign manager. Logan was always telling me things saying
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative.
Yes, sustained. Proceed with the next question.
Move to strike, Your Honor.
The answer will stand as is. Next question, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Alexander, how are you related to today's case?
Unfortunately, I was kidnapped on November 11th.
Ms. Alexander, I'd like to walk you through that day. What were you doing at 5:30 a.m. that morning?
I was about to go for my morning run. After getting ready, I put my keys in my pocket, but when I stepped outside, someone came up behind me, threw a pillowcase over my head, tied me up, and then shoved me into a car trunk and began driving.
Do you know how long you were driving for?
I was petrified, and I had a pillowcase over my head, but I believe it was about an hour.
What happened when you stopped driving?
I was then roughly dragged out of the trunk and down a muddy path, then shoved into a metal chair.
And what happened after you were shoved into this metal chair?
First, they tied me up, and I kept begging my captor to let me go, and they just kept repeating, "You brought this upon yourself."
Objection, hearsay to "you brought this on yourself," and Miss Alexander begging her captor to let her go.
May be heard, Your Honor.
You may.
Neither of these statements are being used for the truth of the matter, either that Miss Alexander wanted to be let go, nor that Miss Alexander brought this upon herself, but the statement Miss Alexander brought this upon herself is being used for the effect on Mrs. Alexander and how she had felt petrified in that moment.
Response.
Can Counsel Ekholm please explain how this would be an effect on the listener, that being Miss Alexander?
May be heard, Your Honor.
You may.
Miss Alexander has testified that she felt terrified and petrified, and the kidnapper saying that she brought this upon herself had made her think that this was politically motivated, therefore being the effect on Miss Alexander.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
Feelings are not effect on the listener. An effect on the listener would not be something that Miss Alexander would feel. Therefore, the statements that Miss Alexander said and her captor said would still be being offered for its truth.
The objection is overruled. The question is allowed. The answer stands, and I will consider it only for the statement's effect upon the listener, namely the witness, but no other purpose.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Did you ever interact with your kidnapper again?
I did. A little while later, they told me, "Drink or there'll be consequences," and stuck a straw through a hole in the pillowcase. I was so scared.
Objection, narrative.
Next question, please. Sustain. And next question, please.
Yes, Your Honor. What happened when you interacted with your kidnapper again?
They told me, "Drink or there'll be consequences," and made me drink this sweet, sticky liquid that made me fall asleep. Later, I was awoken by being roughly
Objection,
shaken.
narrative.
It tends to be narrative at this point. If you'd put the next question to the witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. For the record, that objection was sustained. The answer was stopped at the point. Thank you.
Your Honor.
And we proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. What happened immediately after this?
I was then force-fed the same sticky sweet liquid, and I fell asleep for a second time. The second time, thankfully, I woke up on my own.
What did you see when you woke up this time?
I immediately registered my hands were untied, so I moved the pillowcase from my head. When I looked down at it, I felt shivers crawl up my spine when I saw the logo for the Gold Standard Inn, as well as the words Harper Dre for Emerald Bend written on it.
Objection, hearsay to the logo, the Gold Standard Inn, and doorway for Emerald Bend on the pillowcase.
May be heard, Your Honor.
No, the objection is overruled. You may continue.
Did you get a chance to finish your response?
Yes, I did.
Why did you recognize the logo for the Gold Standard Inn?
There's just been so much politics surrounding it. It's Logan Gold's Inn, which could be affected from the outcomes of the recent election.
Miss Alexander, throughout your kidnapping, did the kidnapper say anything of significance to you?
There's this one phrase that's been burned into my brain. It's been repeating itself. It's, "Everything comes back around."
Objection, hearsay.
What is the truth on the matter that she testified to? That I'm to consider? Is there something true about?
The truth of the matter asserted being that everything comes back around, and what Alexander has done would come back around to herself.
But that's not what the statement itself doesn't tell me that, in fact, those events all occurred. It's being offered for just the statement itself, that it was stated, and that has a pattern in here. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you care to address that issue? It's a very interesting point you raise.
Yes, Your Honor. The hearsay being that it's a statement out of court being offered for its truth. This statement being offered for its truth, everything comes back around to connect Logan Gold to the crime.
Okay. The objection is overruled. The statement is received for the limited purpose of its having been made and the words spoken. Whether they're true or false, I don't know, and the statement doesn't tell me that.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Why was this phrase significant to you?
I've heard Logan Gold say it so many times, it's essentially become a catchphrase for them.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for
Thank
this
you.
witness at this time.
Cross-examination, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Alexander, about 3 months before the election, you lost your job, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It was due to some budget cuts.
So in the days leading up to the election, your vacation rentals were your only source of income, right?
They've been pretty successful so far, and I recently took a risk and I bought 2 additional ones.
And throughout college, Miss Alexander, you participated in drama club, even winning an award for Best Actor, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
As the bar for relevance is low, any relevant to this case being that Miss Alexander would participate in drama club, that being that she would have actor skills and actor capabilities. And the defense's case in chief today that we're arguing is that Miss Alexander would fake her own kidnapping, and having these acting skills would allow her to fake her own kidnapping, Your Honor.
May be heard, Your Honor.
You may.
On those grounds, I'd like to change my objection to more prejudicial than probative, as this statement creates an unfair prejudice towards Miss Alexander, making the trier believe that she could fake this kidnapping and outweighs significantly the probative value of this statement.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
The probative value to the defense's case is that Miss Alexander would have faked her own kidnapping, this providing acting skills so she could do this. And now that prosecution counsel Eckham has raised this objection, he has to prove that it's unduly prejudicial, which this statement is not unduly prejudicial.
Thank you. It is the nature of evidence when offered in a courtroom that it tends to be prejudicial. That's why it's being offered. And whether this is unduly prejudicial, I don't think it's any more or less harmful than the other evidence that comes in here. I will consider it without getting passionate about it, to be very blunt about it. Anything further?
No,
okay, will you continue your questioning?
You watched a podcast about Wes Beffa, a person who faked their own kidnapping, right?
I did. CJ Cosley showed it to me.
And let me bring me back to my last question. Throughout college, you participated in drama club, even winning an award for Best Actor, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Compound question, as this is both asking that this witness participated in drama club and won an award.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
No, it's not necessary. The objection is overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Throughout college, you participated in drama club, even winning an award for Best Actor, right?
I won the award in my senior year of college, which was a little while ago.
So that's a yes, Miss Alexander?
That'll be a yes.
And you claim that your kidnapper dragged you through mud, right?
Yes, they did.
And you claim that you were tied and drugged at your own rental property, correct?
Unfortunately, I was.
And, you thought that faking your own kidnapping would garner sympathy from residents in Emerald Bend to vote for you. Isn't that right?
No, I didn't, because I didn't fake my own kidnapping. I was kidnapped by who I believed to be Logan Gold.
And before your alleged kidnapping, you often heard my clients say everything comes back around, right?
During my kidnapping, I did hear my captors say everything comes back around, and that is a common phrase used by Logan Gold.
Miss Alexander, I wasn't asking if your captor said it. I was asking if before your alleged kidnapping, you often heard Logan Gold say this statement.
Before my kidnapping, I have heard Logan Gold say that.
Thank you, Miss Alexander. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Further examination of the witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
Miss Alexander, for the benefit of the court, would you ever fake your own kidnapping?
Absolutely not. After being kidnapped, it's horrifying that someone would even think to do that.
Thank you, Miss Alexander. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness.
May the witness step down? Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Further evidence from the prosecution.
Yes, Your Honor. Before we proceed, the people would like to request a time check on behalf of both parties.
Please.
Thank you. The people will call Dr. Ray Forrest to the stand.
Dr. Ray Forrest, please stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
Yes.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Dr. Ray Forrest, first name Ray, R-A-E, last name Forrest, F-O-R-R-E-S-T.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may examine.
Good afternoon, Dr. Forrest.
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
I'm Dr. Ray Forrest, and I'm the Chief Forensic Investigator.
And Dr. Forrest, can you explain to the court why you were here today?
I was contacted by Deputy Kim on November 11th, 2023, to conduct a toxicology report on Taylor Alexander. In addition, I also analyzed other evidence for this case.
Dr. Ray Forrest, may I direct your attention to Exhibit C? Do you know what this exhibit is?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain what this exhibit is?
This is the toxicology report I conducted on Miss Alexander because Deputy Kim suspected that she was drugged during her kidnapping.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of the toxicology report?
Yes, I believe it is.
Your Honor, the people would like to enter this exhibit into evidence labeled as Exhibit C.
Objection?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. The evidence is received.
May I proceed?
You may.
What were the results of Miss Alexander's toxicology report?
After I took the blood sample, 160 nanograms per milliliter of doxylamine was detected in her bloodstream. This led me to believe that the initial dose was 37.5 milligrams of doxylamine.
For the benefit of the court, can you explain what doxylamine is?
Doxylamine is a sleep aid commonly used to treat insomnia and is a common ingredient in medicines and cough syrups.
What effect would the dosage found in Miss Alexander's bloodstream most likely have on her?
I believe Miss Alexander's recollections of the event were true. She fell asleep, woke up, and was coherent enough to call 911.
And what other evidence did you analyze at the rental property?
Deputy Kim provided me with 2 blue-line docking ropes and asked me to analyze the tire truck marks found at the rental property.
And Dr. Forrest, what did you analyze about the 2 blue-line docking ropes?
It was strange because they were 36 inches long, but most importantly, 3/8 of an inch in diameter.
Why was this strange?
This was strange because the ligature marks found on Miss Alexander's wrist were an exact match to the ones of the rope.
And what was your analysis on the tire tracks?
First, I found a pebble lodged into Miss Gold's tire, which had an exact match for the impression found on the driveway. Also, the tread depth and width were an exact match to Miss Gold's tire.
Thank you, Dr. Forrest, for your time. Your Honor, no further questions for this witness at this time.
Cross-examination, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Forrest, you drew Alexander's blood on November 11th, 2023, correct?
Yes, I did.
And this report showed a high concentration of doxylamine, true?
Yes, to be exact, 160 nanograms per milliliter of doxylamine.
And this high concentration could have affected Alexander's recollection of the day.
Yes, but I wouldn't say it would affect it as an average person based on her workout routine.
Dextromethorphan was also found in Alexander's bloodstream, right?
Yes, in trace amounts. Dextromethorphan only causes major effects in large amounts.
But trace amounts were still found, true?
Yes, but it wouldn't cause any major effects.
And dextromethorphan is known to cause intense hallucinations, true?
Yes, but in large amounts.
But it can still cause intense hallucinations?
Yes, it can.
And the rope used to tie Alexander does not have my client's DNA on it?
No, but there's many ways you can avoid putting DNA when tying someone up. One per se, wearing gloves.
Thank you, Dr. Forrest. No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
In your expert opinion, why do you think Miss Alexander wouldn't have any ligature marks on her ankles?
I believe she wouldn't have any ligature marks on her ankles because
Objection, Your Honor, outside the scope of cross-examination.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
Your Honor, in, I believe, the last question that co-counsel asked was about the ligature marks and the ropes found at the rental property.
I think the area has been opened. You may continue to examine. Thank you, counsel.
Dr. Forrest, can you continue your response, please?
The sweatpants she was wearing could have interfered with the ropes, making any form of ligature marks on her ankles.
Thank you, Dr. Forrest, for your time. Your Honor, no further questions. May this witness be excused?
Yes.
Thank you.
Further evidence from the people.
At this time, the people rest, Your Honor.
Any further procedure items that come up, or are we to go to the defense case at this point? Thank you. Evidence from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Harper Dre to the stand.
Harper Dre, please stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Harper, Harper. Dore, Dorais, with an emphasis on the second syllable.
Thank you.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
You may.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dre. Are you involved in politics?
I have been elected by the people in Emerald Bend to be their city council member, and I'm honored to serve. I am a lifelong resident of Emerald Bend, and I care about the direction in which our town is going.
And Mr. Dre, what plans do you have for Emerald Bend?
Well, stopping the influx of tourists is a top priority. They've been throwing boat parties on the lake, leading to significant pollution and endangering our natural resources. I was elected to fix the problem and to restore Emerald Bend to its best.
Are you married?
I have a lovely wife, Logan Gold. She's been by my side every step of the way as I ran against Taylor Alexander. She's a loving mother. I love her very much.
Do you recall any personal animosity shown between you and Taylor Alexander during the campaign?
There was never any personal animosity between Alexander and myself. This extended to everyone involved in my campaign as well.
And Mr. Dre, what kind of person would you describe your spouse to be like?
Extremely hardworking, inspirational, very kind and caring. You could say...
Objection, Your Honor, character evidence.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
As a general rule, character evidence is not admissible, but the defense is allowed to offer character evidence of the defendant first.
Reply.
None, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Now let me direct your attention to November 11th, 2023, before the election took place. Did anything significant happen on this day?
Well, we had a debate scheduled. When I woke up, I saw a note from Logan. A very nice note. She has the heart of gold. The note explained that she went out to pass out campaign flyers and would see me later at the town hall to prepare for my
Objection,
speech.
Your Honor, hearsay as to this note.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
This is not hearsay because it is the effect on the listener. The effect on Harper Dre being that she continued her mourning, not knowing that Logan Gold would arrive to the debate later.
What was the content of the note? I may have missed that.
The content was that Logan Gold had been out passing flyers and left early.
And the question is?
The question was, did anything significant happen on this day?
And your answer?
My answer was we had a debate scheduled, and when I woke up, I saw a note from Logan, a very nice note. She has the heart of gold. It explained that she went out to pass out campaign flyers and would see me later at the town hall to prepare for my speech.
Interesting. How do you reply?
Your Honor, I believe that this statement is being used for the truth of the matter that Logan Gold was out passing out flyers on this morning.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
Hearsay is an out-of-court statement offered for its truth, and we're not offering for its truth. Rather, the effect on Harper Dre, that being that he would continue his morning without Logan Gold, knowing she would arrive at the debate separately.
I consider it for the limited purpose for which it is offered, as suggested by defense counsel. To that extent, the objection is overruled. It will be considered as limited as you have suggested. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And for a moment, well argued. Thank you. Both of you. You may proceed.
Did Logan ever make it to the debate?
Logan was running a little bit late because, gosh, unfortunately, her car broke down. It's a 1992. Old. Needs a lot of repairs. She was frazzled, you know, out of breath, and very apologetic. So she came in a little late.
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative, as this goes beyond the scope of the question.
The answer will stand. A new question, please.
Did Taylor Alexander ever make it to the debate?
Well, no. Taylor was kidnapped.
And what did you decide to do when you knew that Taylor Alexander didn't show up?
Well, when Taylor didn't show up to the debate, we went back to our office where that's when I learned that Alexander was kidnapped. And I was horrified by it. I was shocked when I learned that Deputy Kim was...
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative, as this goes beyond the scope of what this witness decided to do.
Sustained. Next question.
Your Honor, motion to strike everything after the initial response.
Granted.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next question.
What were your feelings after you learned Taylor was kidnapped?
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation, as this witness finding out Taylor Alexander was kidnapped was stricken from the record.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
In the previous question, Mr. Dre said that he learned that Alexander had been kidnapped, and that was why he was late to the debate. Therefore, the foundation has already been laid, Your Honor.
And your present question, would you repeat it, please?
My present question now is, what were your feelings after you learned Taylor Alexander had been kidnapped?
The objections at this point are going to be overruled. The issue is the witness's reaction, and nobody would be a better judge of the witness's reaction than the witness. So to that extent, and that extent only, the answer will be received.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Proceed.
What were your reactions when you learned that Taylor Alexander had been kidnapped?
I was horrified.
And did Deputy Kim tell you anything at your headquarters?
Deputy Kim told me that Alexander was kidnapped, but they also told me that... Excuse me. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Did Deputy Kim tell you anything at your headquarters after telling you that Taylor Alexander had been kidnapped?
I do not believe so, no.
Mr. Dure, why do you believe you won this election?
My policies are what brought us to victory. The people decided to vote for privacy and quiet living over tourism.
And what happened just shortly after the election results?
Deputy Kim...
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation as to something happening shortly after the election results.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
As Mr. Dure has already stated, he won the election. Something that happened after the election results would have already laid the foundation for that, Your Honor.
May be heard, Your Honor.
You may.
On those grounds, I would like to change my objection to vague and ambiguous as this question could mean a variety of different things as what happened after the election results.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
No, the objection is sustained on the basis offered that it's such an open-ended question, if you could narrow its scope so that it's directed toward a specific issue.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Dure, did anything happen to your spouse after the election results?
Well, Deputy Kim arrested my wife. I cannot believe that this happened to the person I love. I know Logan better than myself, and I know that she would never, ever do this.
Objection, Your Honor. Witness is providing a narrative response as this goes beyond what happened.
Your Honor.
The answer will stand, and I will stop the answer at this point. There'll be a new question put, please. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your objection is well taken. Proceed.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Further examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
May I proceed?
You may.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dure.
Good afternoon.
You had a scheduled debate on November 11th, 2023. Am I correct?
You are correct.
And Logan Gold, the defendant, arrived late to this debate.
She arrived 30 minutes late. I was just glad she made it.
And when she arrived, you said she appeared frazzled?
She did.
And she said to you, it's all been taken care of. Am I correct?
A quick response. Logan never likes to get into personal issues in public.
I'm sorry, is that a yes or a no?
That's a yes.
And Taylor Alexander never showed up to this debate. Am I correct?
No, Taylor was kidnapped.
And eventually, your spouse was arrested for this kidnapping. Am I correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
And when you found this out, you rushed down to the police station. Am I correct?
Of course I did.
And you demanded to speak to your spouse?
Of course.
And when you spoke to your spouse, they started rambling about the Gold Standard Inn. Am I correct?
Yes, they were nervous.
In fact, their main concern was the Gold Standard Inn, their family business. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dre. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness.
Further examination,
Yes, Your Honor.
please.
Mr. Dre, when Logan Gold said it's all been taken care of, what was she referring to?
Well, she was referring to the flyers.
Thank you, Mr. Dre. No further questions.
May the witness step down?
Yes, Your Honor, and may I retrieve Exhibit B off the stand?
Yes. You may step down. And your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the defense calls Logan Gold to the stand.
Logan Gold, please stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Logan Gold, LoganGold.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may examine.
Your Honor, before I begin, may I place Exhibit A on the easel and have a time check for both parties?
Yes, you may. If counsel will proceed.
May I enter the well?
Yes.
May I inquire?
Please.
Good afternoon, Miss Gold.
Good afternoon.
Are you married?
I am to Harper Dre. He recently got elected to the Emerald Bend City Council. We also have a 2-year-old munchkin.
Now, Miss Gold, are you a boater?
I sure am. I recently bought a variety of boating supplies, including blue line docking rope. I was planning on taking my boat out on the lake soon. It's a hobby I have.
Now, do you own a business?
I do. I have a small family business, the Gold Standard Inn. Unfortunately, someone broke in and...
Sustain. Even next question. The answer will stand as stated, and we'll go on forward. Thank you.
So, did anything happen to your business about 2 weeks before the last scheduled debate?
Unfortunately, yes. Someone broke in and stole supplies, including pillowcases, just before the last scheduled city council debate between my husband and Alexander.
Now, I want to direct your attention to the morning of November 11th, 2023. What did you do that morning?
It's a preliminary question. I'll allow it as it stands. Thank you.
Well, I woke up early to distribute campaign flyers to homes around town.
I remember running into that popular podcaster, what's her name, CJ Cosley, and I also gave her one of my flyers.
I want to direct your attention to Exhibit A. Do you recognize it?
I do.
Your Honor, may Ms. Gold please stand to approach Exhibit A?
You may.
This is a map of Emerald Bend. It shows the location where I was distributing flyers around CJ's home. As you can see, the homes are spread out. Here in red is the unpaved fire road that I took as a shortcut instead of this main winding one.
Thank you, Ms. Gold. You may take a seat. Your Honor, the defense introduces Exhibit A into evidence.
Objection?
Yes, Your Honor, lack of foundation as this witness has never established that this is a fair and accurate depiction of the map near her.
It's implicit in the answer. We'll allow it to be go forward. Thank you.
So, approximately how many flyers did you distribute?
At least a dozen. Homes in Emerald Bend can be spread out, so it takes time to get to each one.
Now, did anything significant happen to you as you were driving down this fire road?
Some of the leftover flyers in the passenger seat began to fly out the window. I immediately stopped my car and went to go gather them. But when I came back, my car just wouldn't start.
So what did you do?
Well, I spent about 2 hours trying to fix it. The problem was with the starter relay. It wasn't working very well. I was able to do a temporary fix just to get me to the town hall.
Did you end up repairing your vehicle?
About 2 days later, I went to Otto's Auto Shop to get a replacement starter relay switch.
Did you make it to the town hall?
I arrived at roughly 12:30 p.m. When I got there, I was confused and shocked.
The objection is sustained. The answer will stand. Your next question. I'll ask the witness to limit your answers to the questions that are asked of you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So, did Alexander show up to the debate?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Did Alexander show up to the debate?
No, he didn't. I later learned that he was kidnapped. I felt scared. It reminded me of the break-in at the end and the rise in crime in Emerald Bend.
Now, Ms. Gold, I'm going to ask you a very, very important question. Did you kidnap Taylor Alexander?
No, absolutely not. That's not who I am.
Thank you, Ms. Gold, and thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross. You may.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Am I correct in saying you've dealt with supplies at the Gold Standard Inn?
Objection. Vague and ambiguous.
May I rephrase the question, Your Honor?
The question's allowed, and the question has been put to the witness. The witness will answer, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Are you able to respond?
Yes, I have dealt with supplies.
And you are aware that Mrs. Alexander was kidnapped with a pillowcase from your inn?
Yes, unfortunately someone broke in and stole pillowcases.
And you work with these exact pillowcases?
They are the ones for my inn, so yes.
Now, the trunk of your car where Miss Alexander was allegedly thrown was found coated in oxalic acid, correct?
Well, that is true, yes.
And oxalic acid is a cleaning supply?
Yes, it just spilled.
Now, both pillowcases and cleaning supplies were missing from your inn just weeks before the kidnapping?
Yeah, that's true.
Now, if Miss Alexander won this election, your family inn could be threatened. Am I correct?
Well, vacation rentals certainly didn't help my inn.
Is that a yes or a no?
It didn't help my inn, so yes.
Now, the election in Emerald Bend was neck and neck. Am I correct?
It was a pretty close election.
In the last debate, which Miss Alexander missed, could have a sway on the undecided voters?
That is true, yes.
A sway that would affect your family business.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that question?
Yes. This sway could affect the gold standard. Am I correct?
I guess it could affect my business.
Now, the morning that Miss Alexander missed this debate, you only have a 5 to 10 minute alibi. Am I correct?
Well, that's for how long I spoke to CJ Cosley, and after my car unfortunately broke down.
Now, Miss Alexander, I'm asking, that morning, for only 5 to 10 minutes, do you have an alibi?
That's for how long I spoke to CJ Cosley, so yes.
And this alibi was hours after the kidnapping?
It was around 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, Miss Gold. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness.
Thank you. Further direct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
May I inquire?
You may.
Now, Ms. Gold, Counsel Eckelman asked you about the pillowcase that was found at the crime scene. Why was that pillowcase there?
Well, somebody broke in and stole pillowcases, so...
Now, did the election pose a threat to you personally?
Not to me personally. My business didn't benefit from it, though.
Now, why was there oxalic acid in the trunk of your car?
Objection, Your Honor, vague and ambiguous. This witness is clearly confused.
The witness will testify to that if indeed that is so.
Yes, Your Honor.
The interruption is overruled. Would you re-put the question, please?
Yes, Your Honor. So, you did buy a variety of cleaning supplies before the election, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is leading the witness.
I'll allow the answer. It is a leading question, but in the context of the case, it's permissible.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yes, I did. That's correct.
And did you buy oxalic acid?
I did.
So why was there oxalic acid in the trunk of your car?
It just spilled.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions. May this witness please be excused.
You may. You may step down.
Your Honor, may I retrieve Exhibit A?
Yes.
May I enter the well?
I'm sorry?
May I enter the well?
Yes. Further evidence from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Dr. Cody Palmer to the stand.
Dr. Palmer?
Dr. Cody Palmer, please stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Dr. Cody Palmer, Kodypalmer.
Thank you.
Your Honor, before I inquire, may I place Exhibit B on the easel, and may I have a time check on behalf of both parties?
Both requests are granted. Time check, please.
May I inquire?
You may.
Good evening. Good afternoon, Dr. Palmer. What are your credentials?
Good afternoon. I'm a forensic pathologist and have been since 2014. I received my undergraduate degree in forensic pathology, followed by my medical degree.
Are you familiar with Taylor Alexander?
I am. I examined their toxicology report.
Did you find anything significant in this report?
There was the presence of doxylamine. Doxylamine is a sleep aid that is used to treat insomnia. It can cause vivid dreams and extreme grogginess and confusion.
Were there
Because I found such a high concentration of this at around 4:45 p.m., this suggests Alexander had a larger dose around noon, which is earlier than suggested by Alexander and Dr. Forrest.
Were there any other drugs found in Alexander's bloodstream?
There was dextromethorphan. Dextromethorphan is a drug that can cause intense hallucinations.
I think the answer has been given. I'll ask a new question be put. And I'll ask if you concluded your answer.
I did not, Your Honor.
You did not? Why don't you continue then?
Yes, Your Honor. A mix of doxylamine and dextromethorphan can cause powerful hallucinations. Because I found both drugs in Alexander's bloodstream, in my professional opinion, this can cause me to bring to question Alexander's recollection of the day. She could be making things up or confusing hallucinations with reality.
Is there any other evidence that you considered?
I examined 2 pieces of blue line docking rope with Alexander's DNA on them. Although there was DNA present, there is no way to conclusively determine when or how Alexander came into contact with the rope.
Let me direct your attention to Exhibit B. Do you recognize it?
I do. It is the tire tracks found at the Lakeside property as well as Logan Gold's car tire.
Your Honor, may Dr. Palmer approach the exhibit?
You may.
Can you please describe the exhibit?
Of course. While Dr. Forrest concludes that this pebble made this distinct imprint, in my professional opinion, this pebble should have made many more imprints. Emerald Bend has a lot of unpaved roads, so it is very likely that another vehicle would have this pebble in a similar place, leaving the same imprint.
Objection, Your Honor. Witness is providing a narrative response outside the scope of the question. Your Honor, may I be heard?
Sure.
Dr. Palmer is an expert witness. She has more leeway to give an explanation to her answer. Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes?
Your Honor, the question was asking whether the doctor recognized this exhibit. The doctor did state that the doctor recognized this exhibit, and the doctor described what it is, but the doctor's review and analysis of the evidence given in the exhibit is beyond the scope of the question.
The answer will stand, and I'll ask that you put a new question to that extent the objection is sustained.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Counsel?
What can you tell us about the tread depth?
While Dr. Forrest concludes that the tires were 5/32 of an inch, I believe they're actually 6/32 of an inch. Although it's only a 1/32 of an inch difference, this can cause tires to leave vastly different imprints. This is crucial. There was no way to conclusively determine that these tracks are matched to Logan Gold's vehicle.
You may sit down.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness provided a narrative response to the question.
And the answer, as given, was responsive, and it is now concluded, and the new question will be put. Thank you, counsel.
Yes. You may sit down. Did you find any substance in Gold's car while you were inspecting it?
I found oxalic acid, which is a cleaner that can be used to remove rust from boats.
Does this raise any red flags to you?
Not at all.
Thank you, Dr. Palmer. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Now, you agree with Dr. Forrest that the tire tracks found at the crime scene are from total tires 350 wheels, correct?
That is correct.
And you are aware that the defendant has the same brand of tires on her car?
Although the defendant does have the same brand of tires, the measurement of the tires do not match.
Is that a yes or no?
That would be a yes.
Now, you disagree that the tire tracks at the crime scene could not have been from the defendant's vehicle?
That is correct.
However, you are aware that Dr. Forrest did find an imprint that matched the pebble lodged in the defendant's tire?
While Dr. Forrest did find this imprint, I believe that this pebble should have made many more imprints, making the tire tracks not unique to the vehicle.
Is that a yes or no?
That would be a yes.
Could you direct your attention to Exhibit B?
Yes.
Do you recognize this exhibit?
I do.
Could you please describe it to the court?
Sure. This is the tire tracks found at the Lakeside property, as well as Logan Gold's car tire.
Are these fair and accurate photographs of the tire and the tire tracks?
They are.
Your Honor, permission to enter Exhibit B into evidence?
No objection, they will be received.
Can you direct your attention to the first photograph?
Yes.
In this photograph, you can see a pebble lodged in the defendant's tire.
I can.
Can you direct your attention to the second photograph?
Yes.
In this photograph, you can see an imprint left by a pebble on the defendant's, in this photograph, you can see an imprint left by a pebble on the tire track.
I do not believe this imprint was made by this pebble specifically, but I do see an imprint made by a pebble.
No, Doctor, there is a possibility that these imprints were formed by the defendant's car.
Although it is possible, it is not very likely. I believe that this pebble should have made many more imprints as the tire rotated in the tire tracks, making this pebble not unique to the tire.
Directing you back to my question, there is a possibility, correct?
There is a possibility, but it is not very likely, so yes.
Now, you believe that Ms. Alexander should have had a hard time remembering facts accurately?
I believe that the mix of doxylamine and dextromethorphan could have given Alexander hallucinations or made her groggy.
However, all of your conclusions were based on average responses to the same dosage of doxylamine.
Can you repeat that?
Your conclusions that you drew were based on average responses to the same dosage of doxylamine.
My conclusions were based off of the doses Alexander were given, and when I have examined previous patients under the influence of the same drugs, I have noticed grogginess and confused behavior.
Exactly, doctor, but you examined previous patients. Now, would you agree that there are several variables that affect one's response to doxylamine?
There are several variables, but given the dosage Alexander was given, I believe that she had a groggy response.
The tolerance for drugs like doxylamine varies from person to person, correct?
It does.
So, doctor, all of your conclusions are based on hypothetical scenarios?
My conclusions are based off of the doses Alexander was given.
But, doctor, you didn't personally examine Ms. Alexander, did you?
I examined her toxicology report.
Is that a yes or no?
That would be a yes.
A yes that you didn't personally examine Ms. Alexander, correct?
I didn't examine her in person physically, but I examined her toxicology report.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect,
Yes, Your Honor.
please.
May I inquire?
You may.
Even though the tires are total 350 tires, are the TED reps still different?
Yes, I believe they were incorrectly measured and that they do not match.
And can doxylamine still have an effect on Alexander's recollection of the day?
Yes, doxylamine is known to cause extreme grogginess and confusion, giving Alexander the same response.
And did anything counsel Sandra Shakar ask you on cross-examination change your opinion?
Absolutely not at all.
Thank you, Dr. Palmer. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Very
May
well.
this witness be excused, and may I take down Exhibit B?
Yes. Further evidence from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Nicole Joseph Cosley to the stand.
Thank you.
Nicole Joseph Cosley. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
CJ Cosley, CJ Costly.
Thank you.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
You may.
Good afternoon, Nicole Joseph Cosley. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good afternoon, but I like to go by CJ. I'm 27 years old, and I've spent my entire life in Emerald Bend. It's not the most exciting place to grow up, but it's home.
What do you do for a living?
I uncover truths. I'm a podcaster, and I cover criminal and political episodes, to be exact.
Tell us about your political podcast.
Objection, Your Honor, vague and ambiguous as to what counsel is asking about regarding the podcast.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
You may.
The previous question was, what do you do for a living? And Miss CJ explained that she does podcasts, including political podcasts. So my next question, which would be, tell us about your political podcast, is where she's going to explain her political podcast.
The question will stand. The answer will stand. Objections overruled. Your next question.
Tell us about your political podcast.
Sure. I recently started a podcast called Small Town Intrigue, STI for short. And I have a theme song, too. And just look at this beautiful audience. I can sing it right now.
That's okay. Let's stick to the case. What political race did you follow in 2023?
I followed the city council race in Emerald Bend, and I interviewed both candidates, Harper Dre and Taylor Alexander. But Taylor didn't just stick to politics. She got personal. She would clench her fist and say, Dre and Gold are horrible for Emerald Bend.
One moment. Yes?
Objection, Your Honor, narrative.
Sustained. Next question.
Motion to strike everything beyond.
Answer will stand as it is.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Did you see Ms. Gold on November 11th, 2023 in the morning?
Yes, I did at 9:30, and we spoke for 10 minutes.
And what did Miss Gold appear like?
She appeared normal. She had a stack of flyers with her.
Thank you, Miss CJ. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Further inquiry,
Yes, Your Honor.
please.
May I proceed?
You may.
Good afternoon, Ms. Cosley.
Good afternoon.
Through your podcast, you've grown to like Mrs. Gold. Am I correct?
Well, I do agree with some of her political views.
And you'd agree that Mrs. Alexander's had a negative demeanor towards Miss Gold?
Yes, she has shown animosity.
Now, throughout this election, you've grown to believe more firmly in Harper Dre's campaign. Am I correct?
Well, like I said, I do agree with some of her political views.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes, with some of her political views.
Now, on November 11th, 2023, you state that Logan Gold was at your house. Am I correct?
Yes, she gave me a flyer, and we spoke for around 10 minutes.
And you spoke for 5 to 10 minutes at 9:30 a.m. Am I correct?
Yes, we did.
So, Mrs. Cosley, you are telling me that your testimony towards Miss Gold today is a 5 to 10 minute alibi hours after the kidnapping had taken place?
Well, we did speak for 5 to 10 minutes.
Hours after the kidnapping took place?
But there wasn't a kidnapping.
Hours after the alleged kidnapping took place, Miss Cosley.
Hours after the alleged kidnapping.
Thank you, Miss Cosley. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness.
Further inquiry by the defense.
No, Your Honor. May CJ Cosley please step down from the stand?
Yes. Further evidence from the defense.
No, Your Honor, the defense rests.
Both sides having rested, we'll take a breath for a moment, and the prosecution will give its opening statement. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
May it please the court. Everything comes back around. Your Honor, today the people have proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Logan Gold, kidnapped Taylor Alexander. We have shown that the defendant is the only person with the means, the motive, and the opportunity to commit this crime.
Thank you, counsel. Defense wish to offer its opinion? Your argument, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Before I begin, may I have a time check?
Counsel?
May it please the court. Before the election, Alexander took the plunge and purchased vacation rental properties. Then, these vacation rentals became her only source of income. Alexander had to win this election or face financial ruin. The stakes were high for Alexander. Alexander had the means and the motive to fake her own kidnapping in order to garner sympathy and votes right before the election. The prosecution's evidence is not only purely circumstantial, but also weak. Courtroom 224 states, if you can draw two or more reasonable conclusions from circumstantial evidence, and one points to innocence and the other to guilt, you must accept the one that points to innocence. Here, the circumstantial evidence points to innocence. Let's examine it, starting with the Blue Line docking rope. Emerald's Bend is a lakeside town where this rope is commonly used by boaters and can be easily purchased at the local Emerald's Bend hardware store. Miss Gold herself is a boater. That is why she had a receipt showing the purchase of a variety of boating supplies, including Blue Line docking rope. Now, let's turn to Alexander's testimony. Alexander claims that Alexander admits that they never saw the kidnapper. They couldn't identify the appearance, the gender, or the voice of her kidnapper. Yet she still wants you to believe that it was my client that kidnapped her by implicating my client's catchphrase. Everything comes back around. Your Honor, this is outrageous. But what is even more outrageous is that Alexander claims that after she was kidnapped, she was brought to her own vacation rental property. Now, Alexander claims that the pillowcase that was used to cover her head had a logo from the Gold Standard Inn, my client's own family business. The prosecution not only wants you to believe that my client kidnapped Alexander, but that she also used a pillowcase from her own family business to do it. Your Honor, this makes no sense. Let's further examine Alexander's testimony. Alexander claims that she was dragged down a muddy hill. Yet, my client's shoe prints were found nowhere at the alleged crime scene. In fact, the physical evidence shows that the ground was dry and that there was no mud on my client's tires whatsoever. The physical evidence does not lie. Alexander is not credible. Now, Alexander was under the influence of drugs. Dr. Palmer testified that a mix of dextromethorphan and doxylamine can cause powerful hallucinations. Let's turn to the tire tracks. Prosecution expert Dr. Forrest testified that one minuscule indentation in the dirt ground is enough to tie my client to the crime. Well, let's think about this, Your Honor. As the car moves, tires rotate, leaving a pattern. Yet, there are no photos documenting a pattern. In fact, Dr. Cody Palmer, a forensic expert, analyzed this same set of tire tracks and concludes that they do not match. Now, there was a break-in about 2 weeks before the last scheduled debate where many pillowcases were stolen. Detective Kim concedes that they failed to investigate this break-in. They failed to investigate whether Alexander fabricated the kidnapping. This further highlights Detective Kim's incomplete investigation. Well, we do have direct evidence in this case. My client's own testimony. My client waived their Fifth Amendment rights and testified under oath that they did not kidnap Alexander. That in fact, during the alleged kidnapping, Alexander, Miss Gold, was handing out flyers to residences in the vicinity of CJ's home. Detective Kim corroborates this, testifying that they did find a dozen flyers in residences in the vicinity of CJ's home. When you examine the evidence, it becomes clear that Alexander is trying to frame my client into something that never happened. Your Honor, today there should be no doubt in anyone's mind that my client has a heart of gold. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you firmly convinced that my client is guilty. The prosecution has failed to meet that burden. Your Honor, the defense asks that you find my client not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Reply? Thank you, counsel. And final closing.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please.
The prosecution's evidence is built like a house of cards. If you blow on it, it all comes falling down. The prosecution does not have a shred of evidence against my client. They're picking and choosing circumstantial evidence, making it seem like it's direct evidence. They fail to give the full picture. The defense asks that you come to the only reasonable conclusion for this trial, that Miss Gold is not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. Bravo. I'm going to ask Judge Romero, is there, as we proceed here, I'd like to hear something from each of the scorers and a little snippet of what their thinking is. And I'm going to ask, I am going to give a verdict in this case, but I thought to be a little bit cutesy and make the audience the jury for this time being. We'll take a vote at the end, so you think about your verdicts while we're going on. I'd like to start with the people who have scored, graciously come here to give their time, and any comments that you would like to make, and I'm sure there are an ocean of them, but please, starting from my right.
First off, congratulations, everyone. You all did an excellent job. Really impressive. I want to take some time and just applaud all of you for stability and camaraderie, even though we're going against two different teams here. I really appreciate the way that there's a lot of mutual respect among all the competitors. boss, but that wasn't the case today. I was really impressed with how everyone here conducted themselves. You felt like professionals. I can't speak for everyone on this panel, but not every attorney in real life acts as well as you all did. So for me, I found it refreshing. I think that as youth, you are all doing an excellent job preparing to become adults, and overall, you should all walk away from this experience feeling very proud of yourselves, your teammates, and being very thankful to your coaches and everyone, your family members who supported you. So again, great job.
I'll echo some of the comments that I just heard from Michael in just being so impressed by all of you, from the bailiff to the lead attorneys. Really impressive. And there are a lot of attorneys that I think that could take some lessons from all of you in being great trial lawyers. One of the challenges in being a great trial lawyer is the delicate balance of how aggressive to be in the courtroom. And I was very impressed by the objections, for one, knowing when to make the objections, knowing how to respond when your opposing counsel has a great case, or a great case for why they have a great objection or for rebutting your objection. And that to me was very impressive, along with the movements, seeing the movements on both sides, a little bit of pacing, not too much, the hand gestures. That to me was very convincing, and I thought you all did an amazing job.
Well, I concur with both of those opinions, and I just want to say I would be very proud to be represented by any of the six of you at the table. You did a great job. And I also thought that any of these teams, both of these teams, could be pit against any high school team that I have seen in this competition, and you would have stood up to them. So congratulations, all of you.
I want to talk about comparing one team to the other. I would say both teams were equally well prepared and very well prepared. The witnesses knew the facts. Matter of fact, I don't think I saw anybody using notes except possibly on redirect, which is permissible. So one team I thought was better than the other, and since each team was equally well prepared, what differentiated the team that I thought was better? It had to do with public speaking. One of the teams paced themselves more slowly, and their words could be understood better than the other team. So I would say there's some excellent advocates here. I think all the attorneys were excellent advocates, but the public speaking aspect is very important, because when you're in the courtroom, if your words are not heard or understood, then your ability to persuade goes down. So I would say those of you who are interested in pursuing the law as a career, work on your public speaking. But you did a great job, all of you.
I agree and adopt everything up until now, except I believe your public speaking skills were phenomenal. It is very difficult to get up in front of a group of people and speak clearly, concisely, and get your thoughts across. Y'all are very young, and you all did extremely well. One thing that absolutely floored me was everyone knew their objections. Nobody got flustered when either the defense or the prosecution objected. They listened to the objection and deftly responded. Sometimes they were overruled. Sometimes I disagreed with the judge, but I'm not the judge. Everyone handled it with grace and civility. Civility is so important as attorneys. Although we are adverse to each other, we are to the issues, we are not adverse to one another. Because if you were on the other side, you would do the exact same thing as the other side. So your civility and kindness towards one another, I was very impressed by that. I would like to see the artist sketch. That hasn't been shown to us. We want to see what you've done.
They'll be around after. They'll be around afterward after we do this. So
I got
if they
it.
have completed their work, they'll stick around for a minute or two.
Overall, y'all were phenomenal. Very impressed.
I've had the opportunity to do this particular job about 5 or 6 years. And each time I do it, I'm overwhelmed by the students and their ability to present themselves so professionally as if they were really in a courtroom. They're courteous, they know their objections, they know their case cold, they make everything perfectly understandable. And so I say to you, I hope you will keep doing this and maybe even become lawyers, because we could use people like you greatly. And thank you for the chance to do this. And thank you, parents, for supporting your children.
I don't have a lot more to add. I just echo what everyone says. But also, I just want to point out that what you've done, I mean, today and in the course of this whole mock trial experience is something that obviously not only would most middle schoolers not do, but many adults that I know would never have the courage to learn how to do this and work on their public speaking, and the skills that you learn doing this, even if you don't go into law, they're going to apply to so many aspects of your life. And so just good job, and keep going, keep doing this, because it's only going to make you better. And congratulations.
I'm going to withdraw my assignment of this to the jurors. You all have biases, obviously. So I couldn't possibly impanel you. You're all disqualified. I've been doing this for a long time, and the notion of middle school students doing this is absolutely stunning to me. The person who thought this up, whomsoever suggested this, was probably laughed out of the room. And last year I saw it. This year it's the fine wine has blossomed even further. I'm cynical about it. I'm going to come here and hear some kids, what do they know? The virtue of seeing this done by you, who are tomorrow. I'm yesterday. You are tomorrow. And that, watching you here, my heart swelled. I thought, maybe we've got a fighting chance still. The presentations were remarkable. We tend to run to superlatives when we address circumstances such as this. A bunch of kids, let's talk to them, let's make them feel good, go home and do whatever. That's not happening here, and I concur with the scorers. This was a very special presentation. It was commented that this could be, these teams could pit themselves against the high school teams. That was not hyperbole. I'm just frankly astonished. I don't know how many hours you spent, and to the parents, how many hours you had to listen to the repetitiveness of this, but this is what, in many ways, this is your best life lesson today. Hard work, education, and presentation, and you get what we see at this moment. I don't want to run to superlatives because they are so easy to throw around. But I would be insulting you if I didn't say that this was a truly remarkable presentation, well beyond what I think we snotty adults would say we expected when we walked in here. I just can't tell you how pleased I am by what I saw. I have a question now for all of you. Pause, think. How many of you now think you might want to pursue a legal career? Just show a hand. That's great, thank you. Your parents will deal with that after the. Look, it's not my job to pontificate on this stuff, but I have a bully pulpit, so I just want to offer this thought. There is a cynicism running rampant throughout this country concerning youth, concerning education, and concerning the future. I, like many of you here, recognize we are in troubled times, and we are faced with the rule of law being tested to its very core. We have indeed a system of justice, which I gave my life to, and would do it no other way. And I am a proud veteran. I went to public schools. I saw the future, which becomes now my past. And I now look at your present, which is our future. You give me hope. And I hope that you take pride and take the challenge of what the future holds, because it ain't going to be easy. And you are going to meet it. I know that. I'm so proud of you. Not my place. I just walked in here, some guy who's going to listen to this, you know, and I have a little experience doing this, and I'm overwhelmed by the quality of your presentations, the references to the law, your ability to deal with the presentation as it went on, to react to the change of circumstances as it was presented to you. It was very professional. I applaud what you did. Your parents should be busting with their buttons right now. And maybe that's not even a phrase today, I don't know. So I won't continue to ramble. I think it's incumbent upon me to render a verdict. This is a very interesting case. This is as clear a distillation of reasonable doubt issues. This is really what reasonable doubt is all about. This is a swamp of a case. It's filled with everything you could want or not want, depending upon your side. It is not clean. So I ask myself, I've never served on a jury, by the way. I've tried hundreds of cases, but I never served on a jury. And this is a test of a fact finder. That's what judges are. What happened? And am I satisfied, based upon the conclusion I reach, that I won't walk out of this room 10 minutes from now and go, maybe not? Do I have a reasonable doubt? And I don't, with all due respect to the defense. there is a clean line of motive, opportunity, and execution that emerges from this quagmire of fact. The motive is clear. You're a naughty person. And the circumstances are too bizarre if you buy the defense theory of what happened. And they have so much reason to be upset with what was being presented. They're going to have their lives altered and destroyed by people coming into their community. So there's motive, there's opportunity. She's pouting. That's not nice. And so my verdict would be a guilty minus. In other words, I am willing to say guilty. I don't have a reasonable doubt, but I have a nagging little issue in my mind. Could that really have befallen you at such opportune times? And when I ask it that way, I just, nah, not a chance. So you're guilty. Bailiff, your final act, lock her up. And with that, thank you all. Gilbert, is court adjourned now? And what, if anything, you have a lot of stuff to follow. What's our program from here on out? Okay, so while we await the arrival, there's a little background on how these programs get together. I'm on the committee that drafts this problem. It's a statewide committee, and we meet by telephone, and drafts are presented, and we edit them, and we yell at each other. And when this thing first came out, if you think it's messy now, you should have seen it when it first was drafted. And the problem is we tend as adults to make these far more complex. Cases are actually fundamentally simple. Find the line and follow the line. And that's what you did in this case. And that's what we try and do, not make it just complex for complexity's sake. So we meet by telephone. There are several editions of this. And this is now from the organization, I think they call them, there's a new name. It's not the Constitutional Rights Foundation. It's another name that they've given it. I don't know why. But the organization now, which is based in Los Angeles, it's a national organization, and the winner, do they have a national competition for these young people at this level yet? Or a state competition? They're going to watch a video of this, and they're going to start doing that. You really merit competition and going to a higher level by having meeting out-of-county persons and competitors. Is the representative of the school district present to go forward? You just snuck in here. So I'm going to yield the microphone, again expressing my gratitude, and I turn the courtroom proceedings, now concluded, over to the school district for their further proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Justice Perrin. Thank you, everybody, for coming. At this time, I would like to ask that everybody please leave the room. We're going to go ahead and flip the room to get ready for the award ceremony, which will be at 6 p.m. tonight. So great job, everybody, and thank you so much for coming.
Okay.